All right. Welcome, everybody, to Standing for Truth. My name is Donny Budinsky, and I am your host and moderator for tonight's great evolution debate between Austin Sims and Dr. Dino. Gentlemen, I'm excited for this. Specifically, we're engaging the question: is there reasonable scientific evidence for evolution? Austin Sims takes the affirmative, Kent takes the negative. And so, gentlemen, let's get acquainted before we get into the opening statements themselves. Austin, it is your first time here. It's always great to have a new face for these debates on evolution. So, Austin, tell us, how are you doing today? And also tell us about what you do in your YouTube channel.
I'm doing fantastic, you guys. I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to discuss this super interesting topic. And what an opportunity, a golden opportunity to take on the Pi Mei of young Earth creationism himself, Kent Hovind. I'm a little starstruck, honestly. I'm not, Donnie, you're pretty famous now yourself, too. I mean, whew, I'm getting the vapors over here, I'm just a regular fellow. I do computers for a living. I like science. I like philosophy. And this may be, a little strange for an atheist to say, but I actually love religion, especially Christianity and the Bible. And I love reading it. And I love learning about it. And, I do think that creationists have really interesting ideas, and I like talking about their ideas and, hearing what they think, and maybe, arguing a little bit here and there. And, so my channel, I'm dedicated to solving five big problems, the five big problems facing the planet. And those problems, I see them as violence, inequality. I see them as ecological suicide. I see them as an abundance of pointless competition and dearth of cooperation. I see them as anti-intellectualism. And then the fifth big problem is the planetary mortality problem. The idea of what are we going to do if, the planet becomes unlivable? We got to have somewhere to go and some way to get there by then, or life in our galaxy is basically kaput. And so I like talking about science because I feel like it generates interest. It gets minds thinking about those problems, and we never know where the next inspiration is going to come from, the next big breakthrough. So let's go. Let's talk about it. I'm here for it.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate your willingness to engage in these important topics, engage in discussion, and also your passion and energy for them. So, Austin, great to have you here. Appreciate that introduction. Dr. Kent Hovind, certainly not your first time here. This is your debate number 378. So there you go, Austin. You're number 378 on the debate resume there. So, Kent, tell us, how have you been? And also tell us a little bit about yourself and Genesis Baptist.
Well, thank you, sir. Yes, my name is Kent Hovind. I became a Christian at age 16 in East Peoria, Illinois. Gave my heart to the Lord, started reading the Bible, studying. My dad was an engineer, Caterpillar tractor. My older brother became an engineer, and my mom was a public school teacher. My second brother, public school teacher. I always loved teaching and learning, okay? So I ended up teaching high school science and math for 15 years. Loved both science and math. And I'm thrilled to hear that Austin is intellectualism, or however you pronounced it, however you said it, things people believe that are wrong. And he's wrong. We did not evolve. There's no evidence for evolution. So we'll get him converted tonight. So I'm glad to hear that he loves science. Me too. I believe the Bible is absolutely true. It's scientifically accurate. God made everything in 6 days, about 6,000 years ago. There's been variations happening within the same kind, but that's not evolution. It's a variety of the same kind of critter. There's no evidence whatsoever for the charts that they teach our kids of macroevolution. None. It's a religion is all it is, right?
All right, thank you, Kent. A clash on origins between two gentlemen who love science. So this should be good. I'm looking forward to it. I know the audience is as well. And so let's go over the format. All right, we're going to have a comprehensive one for tonight. Again, the question, is there reasonable scientific evidence for evolution? Austin taking the affirmative, Kent the negative. Format: 15-minute opening statements followed by 8-minute rebuttals. We want to give you both more than enough time to engage and interact with each other's arguments, topics. Then we'll get into a discussion. It'll be more free-flowing. Austin, Kent, you'll be able to discuss the topic at hand. And then this is where we get you guys in the audience involved. We're going to have an audience Q&A. And so please, if you do have a question, let me know who it's for, Austin or Kent, and do your best to tag me either at Donny or at Standing for Truth. And that way I won't miss your question. All right, Austin, we are now going to hand it over to you for a 15-minute opening statement. What I'll do when you reach the 14-minute mark, if you get that far, I'll give you a 1-minute warning, and that way you'll know to start winding things down. So just let me know when you're good to go. I'll start your timer.
All right, thank you. I'm ready to go.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so the topic for today's debate was, is it reasonable to say there's scientific evidence for evolution? And I am unequivocally a yes on that one. I'm very lucky to be talking to Kent Hovind, one of the world's experts on the subject. Kent Hovind is an expert in countless scientific topics. I mean, heuristic morphology, transitional forms, analogous forms, embryology, artificial selection, forensic paleontology, observed speciation. I mean, we talk about that one a lot on this channel. Ecology, geography, biology, genealogy, and I do think that a lot of those topics have evidence for evolution in them. And it's actually, I think it's even more than that. I think that it's not only is there evidence of evolution, there's an unwieldily large amount of evidence to pour over in a single debate of a few hours. I don't think you can actually settle the matter with a YouTube debate or a Facebook debate on comments. The real way you settle it is you do thousands and thousands of man hours in labs. And they have done those man hours, and they've brought the data they've collected to me. And I've been poring over this data, and it's super fascinating. Most of the data isn't really suited to this kind of format, but since this is a debate, I think it's clever to play to my audience. And I know my audience here is mostly theology buffs and Bible lovers who think Jesus's power indeed has infinite, limitless possibilities, and who think their Jesus is like the most fundamentally and immovably loving, gracious, and utterly, superly, ridiculously forgiving Jewish demigod who ever maybe walked the earth. I mean, I'm a former Christian. I get that. And so this is a fantastic debate challenge for me because Kent wins every single debate he has. I can't hope to beat this guy. He wins every single debate he has because he's defending the word of God and therefore automatically has the moral high ground. So I don't know how I can hope to defeat that except to maybe approach that idea a little bit with some evidence that maybe there are other interpretations of the word of God that are pretty good. And I'm gonna try and do that today because I think that's maybe not necessarily the best evidence for evolution, but it's probably like specifically the best for this particular audience. And so I want to ask two basic questions as I kind of talk about my ideas on this subject. And those questions are, the first one is, which is better, mercy and love or anger and wrath? I think it's mercy and love for sure. So that one is solidly answered in my mind. And then the other question is, does God's creation have infinite, limitless possibilities? And I think for sure the answer on that one is also a solid yes. And I think I can find some pretty good theological sources to back me up on that. So I went to the internet and I started looking. I do a little philosophy, and I like philosophy and find it interesting. So I was able to cobble together some names of some people who believe, that God's creation is indeed infinite and limitless and reflects the infinite nature of God. That God's power and knowledge are boundless, and the possibilities within creation are also without limit. And those guys, I've been taken to calling them the big bad Bible boys, because there's some pretty impressive theologians. I've got 7 saints and 4 of the greatest theistic philosophers who ever lived. And those people are St. Aquinas, St. Augustine, St. Athanasius, St. Clemens, St. Didymus, St. Irenaeus, St. Justin, and then you got Philo of Alexandria, Origen, Maimonides, and Gersonides. And there's a bunch other ones than those, but those are like the really big ones. And I especially want to focus on 3 of that main list, and those are Augustine, Aquinas, and Philo. And the reason I want to focus on them is because I think if you could go back in time and scoop them up and bring them to our time and ask them the question, does God's creation have infinite, limitless possibilities? They would unequivocally answer yes, all 3 of them, Augustine, Aquinas, and Philo. And I think the reason they would answer that is because they never saw a literal reading of Genesis as requiring the reader to conclude that it was all like 100% completely literal. They saw it possible to read it literally without thinking the earth is 6,000 years old and God is this magician who just keeps popping infinite, magic bunnies out of his magic hat, that God is more than sophisticated enough to make a simple universe that's capable of complexifying through nothing but natural means. So instead of having to create endless miracles, one after the other, poof, here's a herd of elephants, poof, here's shrews, he just poof makes the universe, and then everything from there on is just natural forces. Like Augustine himself specifically said, there are those who think that the only thing God made was the world, and the world made everything else in accordance to his ordination, but that God himself made nothing. And I think that's a much better exegesis of the Bible. That's the one I would go with. If I were going to recommend people towards the Christian religion, that's the exegesis I would push them towards. And I think it's slightly better than Kent's, which, no offense, I see it as a little wooden. It's a little childish in its literality. So, like, to kind of illustrate what I'm talking about with that, let me put it to you this way. When the Bible says God is mighty, do you think it's saying that God has huge biceps and huge pecs and abs and he's super strong and like he's jacked like a Mr. Olympia type figure? Because that's not how I would literally interpret that. I would literally interpret that as it's saying that God is a powerful spirit. So you see how you can kind of interpret things more than one way literally. Even if you're going with literal interpretation, there's a whole host of options you can choose from. I would go with the evolutionary one, and I think Ken even kind of goes with that one a little bit too, because like he said earlier, he accepts microevolution, which is interesting. But the first question, the one about that's the infinite limitless possibilities question. I think for sure the answer on that one is yes. And even if I said that it didn't have infinite limitless possibilities, that there were limits, I don't think anybody can show any limits that preclude evolution. I continue to test that hypothesis daily. The second question, though, is one that I think it'll generally be much harder to move Kent's audience on, which is, which is better, a merciful, loving God or a wrathful, vindictive one? And it's a lot of the people in the audience, I think, are convinced that the latter one is okay or somehow even better, that, wrath is the God they want. And I don't know how I can get somebody who thinks that to change their mind. If you can't see that mercy is better all on your own, I don't know how to convince you about that. Except maybe pointing out your own Bible says it. Jesus was merciful. He was not going around condemning people, not the gays, not the trans. He loved those people. He sheltered them, took them in, fed them, and gave them water. And I think sometimes Kent and his audience, you guys overlook a lot of the grace. And that does make me a little sad. I wish your view of it was a little more graceful. So that is the biblical, that I wanted to approach the idea of, not even getting into the scientific evidence right away, but just to attack the presumption that, if you're interpreting the Bible this way, that you automatically have the moral high ground, that you are defending the one true interpretation of God's word. And I think it's a little reckless of an assumption. I don't think it's actually warranted. I think nobody has any real way to say our scripture is the scripture. Of course, everybody thinks their scripture is the scripture. So yeah, those would be my first two questions: is mercy and love, or anger and wrath? And does God's creation have infinite, limitless possibilities? And I think the answer to both of those is yes. And I do have some Bible verses to support it if Kent wants to get into those a little bit in our open discussions. Some verses from Ephesians and Psalms and Isaiah and Romans. And I do also think that once you get over the philosophical aspect, the theological aspect of, I don't think I'm allowed to believe this without it being an affront to God, then you can kind of start tackling the scientific evidence, which there is a ton, right? Like I was talking about that list earlier, the list of things Kent's an expert in: heuristic morphology, transitional forms, analogous forms, embryology, artificial selection, forensic paleontology, predicting transitional forms like what occurred with Tiktaalik, observed speciation, ecology, geography, biology, genealogy, psychology, botany, virology, biochemistry. The list is really long, and there's a lot more actually. Language, logic, intelligence, zoopsychoneurology. A bunch of them are just like 4 or 5 of those onomies and ologies like mushed together. And I think actually that you were right, Donnie. Me and Kent could do 100 debates about this subject and still not cover it all. I actually, as I was prepping for this, I had the idea of doing just that. And I started a weekly program on my own YouTube channel where I'm just talking about the evidence of evolution. And the last episode we did was 4.5 hours. And I think all we covered was comparative genetic analysis, which is definitely full of evidence for evolution. So like there's all these DNA markers that are analogous in species, the human species. There's a lot of them. There's a huge amount of overall similarity between the genomes of all life forms. They're made out of the same elements. They have similar sequences. They have similar codons and transposons and all of those kinds of things. And especially, one thing that emerges when you compare these genomes is that some species are more related than others. Like, we're 98% similar to a chimpanzee or a bonobo, but only like 60% similar to like a banana, or like 20% similar to a sponge. So not only does it tell us, which species are related, but how much more related one species is to another species over another. And I think that's really useful. And it kind of, it helps support evolution, because one thing you might see if you accept evolution, you might expect to see is that you would have something like convergent evolution. You would have species that look like other species, but by comparing them at the molecular level, you'd be able to tell that they're not actually as related to those species as we thought. And an interesting example of that is the clade Afrotheria, in which there are 2 species, which I know Kent knows about both of these. I think he's actually heard about them in other debates. Man, got to give it up to the master. Wow, he's got so much experience and expertise on me. I really hope I don't make a fool of myself. So Afrotheria, and it has these 2 species, the golden shrew, or no, not the golden shrew, the golden mole and the elephant shrew. And what's interesting about those 2 species is that even though they look like true moles and true shrews, they actually aren't as related to other species of true shrews and true moles as they are to like aardvarks, anteaters, elephants, and a couple other species in that clade. They're actually from a completely different clade. So evolution gives us insight in that way. And if it were wrong, we wouldn't be able to look at and tell, these species look morphologically similar, but genetically we know they actually aren't. So that's the genetic side of things. There's, fossils, there's geography. Those are two big pieces of evidence. There's all these, there's this thing called the law of faunal succession, where every single fossil we pull out of the ground. And this is something Kent talks about a lot. Like, you can't test evolution. And I don't agree with that at all. I think every single fossil we dig up tests evolution, and it's passed every test so far. That's what the law of faunal succession means. The law of faunal succession has shown us that every fossil we pull out of the ground, it pulls out in a specific pattern. It looks like other species that are deeper in the clade. Sorry, did you say my time's wrapping up?
Yeah, you got 30 seconds.
That's
30 seconds.
Okay, well, that's a start to the points I want to make. Genetics, embryology, geography, biology, immunobiology. I think all of these things are chock full of evidence for evolution, and you could spend your whole life studying and still not see it all. And with that, I'll cede the remainder of my time.
Okay, Austin Sims, thank you very much. That is 15 minutes. I've got many in our live chat asking if I got their questions. Yes, I'm all caught up on your questions. Appreciate the engagement and interaction already for tonight's debate. Kent, we're going to reset the timer, hand it over to you, and you have 15 minutes. Go ahead.
Well, thank you. That was interesting. It took him 13 minutes to get to the evidence for evolution. All the rest is attacks on the Bible. I thought the topic tonight was, is there evidence for evolution? And the answer is no, depending on what you mean by that word. So, Austin, we appreciate you doing this. And yes, I'll be glad to do 100 debates with you on each one of those topics. You listed a bunch of names of fields of research and stuff. I can't believe you still have embryology on that list, but it's okay if you want to believe that. So yes, I'll take you on 100 times if you'd like. Bring it on. Okay, let's do one topic at a time. Tonight's supposed to be, is there evidence for evolution? So obviously, if you're going to discuss a topic like that, you have to define what you mean by those words. And I do this over and over. People say he goes to his script. Well, because the truth never changes, okay? Evolution, the process by which different kinds of living organisms are thought to have developed and diversified from earlier forms. Wait. Even that definition assumes you've already starting with living things. How do you start with living things? How did they get there? That's why I think it's important to go really to the beginning. What is the meaning of the word evolution? And I've divided it up into 6 slices, which some of the atheists cannot stand, and that's too bad, okay? Certainly you'd have to, I lost signal here. Hello, I can't hear me. Hello? Okay, it's not good over here. Anyway, all right. The word evolution has 6 different meanings or levels or stages, okay? First of all, there has to be cosmic evolution, the origin of time, space, matter. I would say there is no scientific evidence for how this can happen without an outside source. The laws of thermodynamics are very clear. Matter cannot be created or destroyed. So how did we get here? Somebody outside of time, space, matter had to make all of those. The Bible answers that in 10 words. In the beginning, there's time. God created the heaven, there's space, and the earth, there's matter. There has to be a God to do that. Atheists have never come up with an answer to the origin of time, space, matter, except the stupid Big Bang Theory, which has no scientific evidence whatsoever. It's purely theoretical or philosophical. So none of the other steps in evolution matter if they can't get past this first one. And they're really stuck on this. You cannot get past the origin of time, space, matter without an outside source. And I call that God, all right? All the rest are simply fairy tales. Nothing, there would be nothing to evolve, no space to evolve in, and no energy to make it happen. So you have to have the Big Bang. Nothing but a propaganda poster they teach the kids. Put a dot expanding to a human. And we can just skip some stuff here, but here's the stuff they teach. European Space Agency. Time, space, matter began with a Big Bang. In a fraction of a second, the universe grew from smaller than a single atom to bigger than a galaxy. This is SpongeBob imagination stuff. Time, space, and matter began with a Big Bang. You have to imagine that this happened, and the universe grew from smaller than an atom. Hold it. And it kept on growing. Where's this new energy coming from? Still expanding today? Well, where's the energy coming from? You have to imagine time, space, matter, energy all coming and moving faster than the speed of light. This is just how anybody got fooled into believing something so stupid boggles the mind. Don't pass over that step, Austin. You've been lied to. This is fairy tale. This is SpongeBob imagination. You can believe it, and energy is still being added. From where? How's it speeding up the expansion? So I think there's zero evidence for that. Then we'd have to go from there into chemical evolution, which is the origin of all the elements. You mentioned in your opening about we're all made up of the same elements. I agree. There are 92 naturally occurring elements and then some synthetic ones. The third theory of life's origin is known as chemical evolution. Did I skip one? Here we go. So it is something that they talk about. The Big Bang created all the matter and energy. Most of the hydrogen and helium were created in the moments after the Big Bang. The heavier elements came later. Okay? How do we get these heavier elements? We know they have to have the 92 naturally occurring elements, and life uses a lot of them. You know, most of the different life forms do. Hydrogen and helium atoms emerged a measly 379,000 years after the Big Bang. This is a propaganda statement. This is not a statement of science. You cannot possibly know such a thing. It's a statement of what somebody believes by faith. It's their religion. Let's see. The Big Bang made hydrogen, helium, and a little bit of lithium. Okay. How do you get all the elements? Some of the nuclei combined to form helium. Oh, wow. Much smaller quantities. So actually, the Big Bang mostly made hydrogen within 3 minutes. Wow. Astronomy magazine. Peer-reviewed, by the way. Okay. So chemical evolution, the formation of complex organic molecules. I'm so sorry, Donnie, my timer did not start. So you don't have to tell me when I run out of time here.
Yeah, no worries, brother. I'll pause it right now. You just hit the 5-minute mark, so you got another 10 minutes to go.
Okay, good. Timer started. Something's going wrong here. There. Okay. So yes, chemical evolution is one of the steps of evolution. Chemical evolution, chemical evolution. It's all through the internet. See, the Big Bang supposedly produced hydrogen and helium and some lithium. And then they say the stars fused the elements to get all the 92. Well, you can't fuse past iron. Which stars can fuse elements up to iron? Well, you have to have 8 times the mass of our sun and enough temperature and pressure to fuse all the way up to iron. Well, now you got a chicken and an egg problem. You have to have the stars to make the elements and the elements to make the stars. Why can't stars fuse past iron? Well, iron is so tightly bound that no energy can be extracted by fusion. So, Austin, how do you get past iron on the periodic table? Let's see, right there it is, number 26. How do you get all the way to 92? How do you get gold, silver, platinum, uranium from hydrogen gas? I'm telling you, it's not possible. And so you don't have a theory, you have a religion when you believe in chemical evolution. Okay? They can't fuse past iron. There's all kinds of stuff on the internet about it. In the beginning, following the Big Bang, there was hydrogen, some helium, and a little bit of lithium. Okay, how do you get all the elements? Low mass elements, hydrogen, helium, were produced in the hot, extremely hot, dense region of the radiant energy, the Big Bang. Again, this is a statement of religious faith, not science, okay? Nobody saw this happen, and you can't make it happen again. You have to believe that it happened. Okay, so we can talk about so chemical evolution is a religious view, not scientific. So when the title tonight is there evidence for evolution? Which one are we talking about? Then you'd have to have stellar and planetary evolution. Somebody'd have to make the stars. And again, you got a chicken and an egg problem because you have to have the stars to make these heavy elements. So you get stars, and we've never seen a star form. So we got to cover a whole bunch on that. Star formation changes over time. All we've seen is stars blowing up, nova or supernova. If a star is forming, you got a real problem here because you got to have dust clouds gather by their gravitational pull into a solid. Nobody has ever seen that happen. If the Big Bang happened, the fragments are getting further apart every nanosecond. How do they get together way out there in space someplace to make stars? Not just one, trillions, quadrillions, septillions of stars out there. Stellar evolution, stellar evolution, stellar evolution. It's all through the internet. You can Google it yourself. This guy said, we don't know how a single star managed to form. Nobody does. It's all imagination. Why do stars evolve? Stellar evolution. Where is the evidence for it? It's a belief. They have charts how they think it might have happened. A nebulae is going to, a cloud of dust is going to condense into a solid. Show me that, okay? I don't believe that for a second. Stellar evolution. And then we have to have, let's see, stellar evolution. Do stars evolve? I don't want to waste all my time on this. But I want to define exactly what we're talking about. My Bible says God made the stars, and there's about 70 sextillion that are visible now from Earth. maybe 3 times that many. Everybody on Earth can own 11 trillion stars to yourself. There should be 9.7 million new stars forming every minute. We've never seen one form. Then you have to have the origin of life, organic evolution. Look at this bundle of chemicals. When the Earth formed, it was a hot ball of rock. At first, Earth was a ball of molten rock. Earth was a hot ball of rock. Earth was a ball of molten rock. Here we go. Earth started as a hot, viscous ball of rock. New evidence says Earth was a hot ball of rock. And let's see, life formed. Earth was a hot ball of rock. Years ago, the first living organisms appeared. Hot ball of rock. And 3.9 billion years ago, it began to rain on the rocks and made the oceans. And in the oceans, the first living organisms appeared. So, Austin, if you're going to debate on the word evolution, do you mean you have an answer for organic evolution, how life got started from a hot ball of rock? You believe you came from a rock, Austin? If you believe in evolution, let's see, Earth was a hot ball of rock. That's what they all teach, because that's what the theory says. And they don't like to talk about that. Earth was so hot from all the collisions that all the rock melted, and the Earth was a hot ball of melted rock orbiting the sun. Oh, there you go. Millions of years of rain made the oceans, and in the waters of the oceans was complex chemicals that produced a complex chemical soup. And that's how life got started. Earth started as a hot, viscous ball of rock, and the water trapped in the minerals escaped, called outgassing, and made the mantle solidify. Confessions of a Former Fireball from Yale University. Yep. Earth transformed itself with the help of some weird rocks. So this is the theory you're stuck with as you're trying to defend, Austin. It's not logical. It's not science. So then we have to have, after you get to, let's see, all the stuff about organic evolution, life starting, of which there's no evidence. Scientists can't even do it in the laboratory. They're nowhere close. The 15 essential basic steps that have to be required, each one is impossible. They can't do it. It's somehow, just somehow sparked to life. This is a religious statement. This is not a scientific statement, okay? The primordial soup theory. Yeah, it all came, the building blocks were all there in the soup. First of all, you can't even get the building blocks, let alone put them together. And if a cell dies, what just left? What's gone? What's different from a living cell and a dead cell? What is different? Is it just mechanics? Has to crank it up again? Why don't they bring it back to life? First, self-replicating systems must have emerged in this organic soup. Had to happen. All life descended from a microbe. So I think you're stuck with a really stupid theory to defend, okay? How the oceans were created. So then you have to have what's called macroevolution. Okay, I got plenty of stuff on each one of these, okay? Sorry for I got too many slides in here. Dazzling varieties of life. Let me go home to macro. Okay. This is where an animal changes to another kind of animal. This has never been seen. Never been seen. They draw pictures, they have lines on paper, and they imagine that it happened. And they say it happened by mutation or gene flow or non-random mating, etc. There's mutation, gene flow, the DNA. This is not observed. All we've ever observed is birds produce birds, cows produce cows, dogs produce dogs. And there's variations available. Macroevolution is limited. All we see is a variation of the same kind. These are purely religious. So is number 5. God said they'll bring forth after their kind, after his kind, after his kind, after his kind, 20 times in the first 7 chapters. There are 450 recognized breeds of cows now that might have had a common ancestor called a cow. And most of the varieties they've created for the farmer's convenience, like more milk or more beef, most of them could not survive in the wild and would not develop in the wild. They're developed by man with artificial selection. World's record cow giving 280 pounds of milk every day. That would never survive in the woods. It can barely walk. And there's a limit. They're never going to get a cow to give 4 trillion tons of milk a day. Yes, there are limits, okay? Physical limits, genetic limits, common sense limits. How many kinds of dogs? Wow, 339 breeds of dogs. Most of them would not survive in the wild on their own. Bred for bear hunting. The bear will die laughing when he sees it or he'll choke on it, okay? There are limits to all the different dog kinds. This guy says there's 1,000 types of bananas. How many types of eagles? Let's see, I don't remember how many, it doesn't matter, 60, I think, is it? 60 kinds of eagles. Probably came from a bird. Let's see, how many kinds of oak trees are there? Wow, 600 different types of oaks. Man, probably came from a tree, oak tree. So this is where you evolutionists absolutely won't get it or don't want to get it. Yes, God created them to bring forth after their kind. That's all anybody's ever seen. Now, if you wish to imagine something other than that, you should admit it's imagination and a religion. Microevolution is a lousy word. We should not use it, but they do. So I'm going to accept it and say, I believe there are variations that happen, but they're limited. People have been trying to break world's records in all kinds of things, like the 100-yard dash or the mile run. Somebody finally broke the 4-minute mile, run it under 4 minutes. Do you think they're ever going to run it under a second? Would you admit there's a limit in there someplace? Have they reached the limit? I don't know, and I don't care. But I bet they're close. I bet there's a limit in size. I bet maybe there have been people like Robert Wadlow, 9 feet tall almost. Probably people bigger than that in the past. Is there a limit? You ever going to get anybody 20 miles high? Of course there's a limit. Is there a limit with a teacup chihuahua now, 4 inches tall? Why don't they get one 1/4 inch tall? You guys do not either understand it or will not admit it. There are variations within the kind, and God said they'll bring forth after their kind. That's all we've ever seen. And this crazy classification system that we have with species, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species, the animals don't even know we're classifying them. They don't even care, that's for sure. They know what to look for. Turn all the animals in the world loose together. Turn them all loose into the woods. The squirrels seek another squirrel to mate with. Keep in mind, the squirrel doesn't even know what he looks like, but he knows what to look for. And the frogs look for another frog. They all know what their kind is. They bring forth after their kind. This species, there are 26 different definitions of species, and I'm out of time. Okay, thank you. So we can quit right now. You. We can quit now if you want. I won. Go ahead.
Gentlemen, appreciate the opening statements. 15-minute opening statements each to the audience. Yes, I am all caught up with your questions. Appreciate the questions and challenges for tonight's debaters. Okay, Austin Sims, we're now moving into our rebuttal for tonight's debate on scientific evidence for evolution. So I do want to make sure that we're sticking to the topic as much as we can. And so we got an 8-minute rebuttal. Austin, I'll unmute you. And the floor is yours. You got 8 minutes. Go ahead.
I love the passion. I love the energy. I love that Kent is thriving and living his best life out here and pushing for his beliefs and fighting hard. That's awesome. I do think it's interesting that he says, you came from a rock. I mean, I know both of my parents really liked rock and roll, so maybe I did, in a sense. And that's like kind of literal and kind of allegorical at the same time. What else do you think we could read in that kind of sense, that's kind of both literal and I'm being tongue in cheek. I'm saying the Bible is both literal and allegorical. But Kent has a very well practiced argument, and it is a little predictable. I think Kent is kind of misusing the word evolution a little bit. The way I understand evolution is, the topic of evolution is biological evolution, which is it's a different way of using the word than Kent's using it. Kent's kind of the way Kent is using the word evolution. There's way more than just 6 different kinds of it. There's, oceanic evolution, tectonic evolution, atmospheric evolution, theological evolution, philosophical evolution, mathematical evolution. There's an endless kinds of evolution that way. And I think all of them are well within the limits of God's infinite possibilities. There's limitless infinite possibilities to God's creation, and every kind of evolution is in them. And I don't think Kent really even heard me ask that question. He didn't even try to answer it. That, how does he characterize God's possibilities? Because I characterize them as definitely infinite, limitless possibilities. And evolution is solidly within those infinite, limitless possibilities. And a lot of, Kent makes these points a lot. And, I'm not an astrophysicist. I can't prove stellar evolution. He's probably got me on that. I probably do have a religion, you know. I'm not. Is religion bad? I'm kind of confused by that argument. If evolution is a religion, are we going to get tax exempt status? If so, you know, amen. You know, praise the Ev. You know, I think, yeah, there are limits, just like in terms of physics. Like, yeah, you're not going to get a 20-mile tall human being, obviously, but you don't need a 20-mile tall human being for speciation to occur, which is all that's necessary for evolution. If speciation is possible, then one population of organisms can easily become many populations of organisms. I think even Kent kind of accepts that, which is a little confusing. Yeah, no, it's I think that okay. You know what? Kent kind of touched on something that I personally find really interesting. He was talking a little bit about I don't know if he knows this term, but genetic determinism. The idea that is there a limit? Like, I like to play the guitar. I'm a guitar player. Is there a limit to how good I can get at the guitar? Like, genetically, like physically, is there a limit in my body? Is there a certain level of speed, skill? You know, is there a limit that I can't possibly overcome? And I think the answer is a solid no. If you have passion, if you have energy, if you put time into something, you can overcome almost any genetic limit, I think. And I think there's a lot of science to back that up, actually. I've spoken about this subject with a couple of different people, musicians, you know, scientists, geneticists, an evolutionary biologist by the name of Frank Stearns, who gave me some great input on it. You know, I talk about this subject a lot. I just find it so fascinating. And that is an especially fascinating question, is if you have genetic limits, the genetic determinism conversation. Yeah, no, I appreciate your thoughts, Kent. Thanks for sharing. I still kind of think, yeah, that, you know, there's definitely evidence of evolution, especially like the last two on your chart, which are the only ones I'm really interested in, the micro and macro evolution. And I kind of dislike those words. I feel like they have very limited use in actual biology. And the way I would define them, there absolutely is macroevolution, because speciation is macroevolution and speciation is observable. It's repeatable. We have experiments with insects in entomology where you can produce speciation. And yeah, I think, Kent, it's kind of interesting. If I can ask this question, because I've never gotten a good answer to this one. How is variation within a kind not evolution? The way I see that, that is still 100% evolution. I don't see how that's not evolution. If you got one population of organisms and it becomes two populations that have a, you know, reproductive barrier between that didn't exist previously, then yeah, that's evolution. That's all that's necessary for evolution. I don't care what you call it. If you call it adaptation, microevolution, macroevolution, super duper macroevolution, it's still evolution, you know? And so yeah, and how much time do I have left, Donnie? Is it, if I have more than a few minutes, I have another question I can ask.
You have a minute and a half.
Okay, I'll try to ask my question in that amount of time. So let's think about it this way. Suppose I were to say, you know, fine, young Earth creationists, I want to believe your concept. I want to be on your side. I'm ready to change sides and become a convert. I just need help. Fill me in on the details. You know, I have some specific ones I'm really curious about, and as specific an account as you can give me as to what happened, how, when, so I can defend our side that we're now on together as well as possible. Certainly, we ask that much of evolutionists, so we must be able to do it ourselves, right? So the Earth is 6,000 years old, right? There was a massive flood that wiped out all but two of each organism that were able to fit on a seaworthy boat. except that many animals can't fit on a boat and still have it be seaworthy. So instead we have, common ancestor species that we put on the boat. There's not as many of them, so they can fit on the boat. And then those species diversified into all the animals we see now. Those who understand evolution might think, that looks kind of like using evolutionary theory to support an alternative, which is a little weird, but I want to be on your side, so let's roll with it. The main question I want to ask, we're saying that the Earth underwent major, massive, geological, biochemical, astrophysical, tectonic, volcanic, erosive, environmental, etc. change in just 6,000 years, correct? That the array of species also underwent major, massive taxonomic change in just 6,000 years. And, as detailed and specific of an answer as I can possibly get would be very helpful, because I especially if we can get any sources to help support that claim, I pretty much know that Kant's answer is basically yes, that all that development happened in 6 to 12,000 years, which, it leaves you remarkably little time for all the geological development. It leaves you very little time for the modern array of species to coalesce. And I feel like if you want me to believe that level of change is possible in that short of a time, then you better accept evolution. That's like super macro evolution happening in a very, very short time. It causes me some cognitive dissonance, because then I think, what is the planet going to look like in 500 million years? Do you think the environment will look exactly the same? That the array of species will be exactly the same? That there won't be a single new taxon or any new clades of living organisms that don't currently exist whatsoever? And I just think that's absolutely bananas to think that the environment won't undergo major, even possibly massive changes, and the biodiversity is going to do the exact same thing. And, I think it causes some cognitive dissonance to try and say, evolution can't ever happen no matter how much time you have, but then to also turn around and say super duper macro evolution happened in 6,000 years.
Okay, Austin, thank you very much. Time flew by, so you got an extra minute. Therefore, we will give Kent equal time. Kent, you now have 9 minutes for rebuttal. Go ahead.
Well, thank you. Very interesting. Covered about 80 topics. I don't know if I can get them all. I took notes frantically as my fingers could hold out. Evolution. He talked about mathematic evolution, stuff like that. Well, this just simply changed, because this is, again, muddying the water. What do you mean by evolution? The evolutionists mean that all the species of life on Earth today, all the varieties today, the humans, the flamingos, the dinosaurs, the frogs, the sunflowers, all came from a single creature, a single-celled creature, an amoeba or protozoa or bacteria. This is what the kids are being taught. This is my objection. This is all religion. It's a bunch of lines on paper. It's artwork. It's a propaganda poster. He said, are there limits? Now, Austin, you said you like to play the guitar. So while you were talking, I quickly Googled, what's the most number of guitar notes per second a person has ever done? The world's record is some guy named Marcus, P-A-U-S, however you pronounce that, pause. He did 46.7 notes per second. The world's record, 46. We'll call it 40, call it 50. He got 50 notes per second. Do you think anybody will ever get 12,000 notes per second or 2 trillion notes per second? Is there a limit? Yes. Is somebody going to beat his record? Maybe. Maybe you can beat it. But you're not going to get 1 trillion notes in a second. There is a limit. You guys don't understand. Farmers have been working very hard to produce different kinds of cows. Natural selection. They've selected for more milk or more beef or more heat resistance or cold resistance or something. And they run into a limit every time. So let's see. Is evolution a religion? Absolutely. You said if it was, it should be tax exempt. This is the problem. It's already being taught in taxpayer-funded schools. Your religion, these religious charts, are in our textbooks, teaching the kids that they're all related to an amoeba. That was your great-great-grandpa. And then you include the Big Bang Theory, that we all came from a rock. Yes, you do believe that. So that evolution is a religion, and if we're going to teach that in school, then we better start teaching all religions. Big question is, should we even have public schools? Okay, if we're going to have them, then either teach all the religions, which is not possible, or don't teach any. Just teach science. Teach the kids the anatomy. This is the deltoid, the biceps, the triceps, flexors, extenders, radius, ulna, humerus, scapula. You can learn all the anatomy without ever learning evolution at all. It's a useless theory. No doctor on the planet thinks about evolution while he's doing surgery. He better know his anatomy, okay? The evolution's a useless theory. Even if it's true, it's a useless theory, and it's not true. You covered so many things. Speciation, yes, there are limits, okay? Let's see. How is variation within a species not evolution? That's my point. Now put my slides up, brother. That's my point number 6. Variations within the same kind, within limits, that was observed. As I said, we now have a lot of varieties of cows, or I think 350 breeds of horses that man has developed. Some for racing, some for plowing, etc. Some are stronger, some are faster, some are bigger, some are littler. They're still a horse. There seem to be, they run into a brick wall. And the natural selection would select probably only 8 or 10 different varieties of horses to survive, with artificial selection, with the farmer getting involved, helping the babies survive that would not survive if you didn't bring them their food and fence them in so nobody eats them. They've now developed hundreds of varieties, but they're still the same kind. And they know what their kind is. And a 4-year-old knows what their kind is. You can put a horse and a banana and a cow out there and say, which one's not a cow? The horse and the banana. A 4-year-old will know that. So yes, I believe there are certainly obvious limits that we see. Dog breeders, family trees. There are now 339 recognized breeds of dogs. They have a 4-foot tall dog, 44-inch dog, and it's still a dog. That's not evolution. It's a dog. The dog, the wolf, and the coyote probably had a common ancestor. I wouldn't argue about that. But you guys want me to believe, because you believe by faith, the dog, the wolf, the coyote, and the banana have a common ancestor, don't you? Do you believe you are related to a banana, Austin? Do you believe dogs are related to bananas? Is this chart accurate when it shows the dog up here someplace and the banana going to a common ancestor? Is that science? Should that be taught in tax-funded schools? No, it's a religious belief. I don't care what you believe, but a 4-year-old will tell you the banana doesn't belong there. God said they'll bring forth after their kind. This is not a debate where I have to defend the Bible, okay? I don't have to. I admit it's my faith. You guys do not admit evolution is your religion. You won't admit that because then you lose your tax-exempt status of being taught in public universities and public museums with tax funding. Yeah, you'd lose that. As far as, again, Earth being 6,000 years old and Noah having all these animals on the ark, you're way off topic. The topic tonight is, let me show it to you again, just in case you forgot. Let's see. Right here. Is it reasonable to say there's evidence for evolution? This is not an attack on the Bible. You can do another debate on that another night if you'd like. But yes, I believe going from 8,000 different kinds of animals on the ark to the millions of what man has called a new species, I think that's very possible in a few thousand years. One family was at a seminar I was preaching one time, and they said, we've been in the dog breeding business for 3 generations. In 100 years, our family, we create all kinds of varieties of dogs and sell them, the lap dogs and this kind of, they sell them. They said, Brother Hovind, you give us 20 generic mutts. Go pick out 20 mutts out of the dog pound. Just give us 20, any 20 dogs. We will, in 100 years, recreate all the varieties available today. I don't know if that's true, but that's what her claim was, that we can do that. We can make all the varieties of dogs today in 100 years. Probably true. But you're not going to get a banana or a sunflower or a whale. You're going to always get a dog. And you guys can't seem to get it. One atheist got it pretty close. Who was this guy? I forget his name now. Rationality Rules, whoever that was. He says he thinks all the dogs, kind of from the European dogs, the North American dogs, the Chinese, the Indian, all came from a gray wolf. I would agree. That's probably reasonable. Now, that's not proof they're related to a banana. You guys just absolutely refuse to get it, or you don't have enough sense to see how dumb that is. Okay, let's see. You wanted to know about all the geological changes. Again, that goes back to something out of the topic. But I think that Noah's flood is plenty to explain all the geology we see today. The top of Grand Canyon is 8,000-foot elevation. The river enters the canyon at less than 3,000 feet elevation. Rivers don't flow uphill. If you plugged up Grand Canyon today, in about 200 years, a huge lake would form behind it called Grand Lake. That lake got too full, I think, 100 years, 50 years, maybe after Noah's flood, went over the top. And when any lake goes over the top, it starts eroding a notch, and probably Grand Canyon formed in a week. And you talk about the geologic column. The geologic column does not exist anywhere in the world. This is pure fiction. All over the world, they find petrified trees in the standing position. Petrified trees that are standing up. There is no geologic column. All the layers formed in 1 year. And I cover that thoroughly on my video number 6 if you want more on that. Petrified trees running through different layers. There is no geologic column. The mud slid down from Mount St. Helens. When that mud slid down, it made all kinds of layers in seconds. It's stratified. You can get these sand art toys, flip them over and get 10 or 15 layers in a matter of a few seconds. It does not take millions of years. The layers to the earth were formed while the water was moving sideways. Lateral movement, not horizontal. If the top layer is younger, where did it come from? Does it come from outer space? You guys have just lost your marbles on this one. There is no geologic column. All the layers of the earth are the same age. If the top layer is younger, where was all that dirt sitting for millions of years waiting to land? So we can have a whole debate on that. But the topic tonight for you to defend, is there biological evidence for evolution? Is there evidence for evolution? The answer is no. There isn't any. Nobody's ever seen any animal change to a different kind of animal. My time is done. Thank you, Donny.
Okay, thank you, Kent and Austin, for those opening statements and rebuttals. We now have plenty of points and arguments on the table to engage in a free-flowing discussion. We'll discuss the topic for about 20-25 minutes before we get into some of these audience questions. So what I'd like to do is hand it to Austin, since Kent just ended with his rebuttal, and we will allow you to pick the first point or topic related to tonight's debate question. Is there reasonable scientific evidence for evolution, to go back and forth on? Go ahead, Austin.
Well, thank you, Donny. I think I want to start by saying that evolution is very useful. It's extremely useful. We use it to make predictions. We use it to test relatedness in organisms. We use it for medicine. We use it for blood types. You said something, Kent, about a surgeon doesn't need to think about evolution. Well, I think they certainly need to think about evolution if they're removing your appendix, because that's a vestigial organ that wouldn't exist if not for evolution in your body plan. It doesn't serve a real purpose. It just explodes and fills your insides with poison and can sometimes even kill you. So, yeah, I think your surgeon does need to know about evolution, actually, if he's going to work on your body. It would kind of be like a mechanic not knowing about spark plugs.
Kent, go ahead.
Well, if you think the appendix is vestigial, you're about 80 years behind on your scientific research. Back in the early 1800s, even before the development of good microscopes, they had a list of 180 vestigial structures the body doesn't need. You don't need your tonsils, your adenoids, your appendix, your tailbone, on and on and on. They've now discovered a use for all of them. There are no vestigial structures, no such thing as a vestigial structure. If there was a vestigial structure, that's the opposite of evolution. That's losing something, not gaining something. Where's a nascent structure, something coming on that we need? But the appendix is part of your immune system. Let's see. They listed 180 vestigial structures in 100 years ago. 180, wow. Ask a scientist. What is the function of the appendix in a human before it's taken out through surgery? They misspelled it. This answer from the Department of Energy said, University of Chicago, the appendix has no known physiological function. Whoever wrote this is an idiot about their anatomy. Tell them I said so, okay? It's believed the appendix will disappear as our diet do not include cellulose no more. They're an idiot on the English language as well, okay? We can obviously live without it. Well, that's not evidence. You can live without your arms and legs too. Doesn't prove you don't need them. Now, the appendix, it was supposed to be a vestigial structure, has lost all the most. No, it's not a vestigial structure. I'll show you. They say it's evolved to take on a new.
No, you said you can lose your arms and legs and you can still live, but that doesn't prove you don't need them, doesn't it?
The fact that you can live without them, would you like to lose your arms and legs? Okay, you can live without your appendix. You can.
I wouldn't like it, but I would live.
Okay, right. If that's your definition of evolution.
Yeah, that's true.
No, the appendix is where immune responses are initiated. If you take out your appendix, you increase the
That's not
susceptibility to leukemia, Hodgkin's disease, cancer of the colon, cancer of the ovaries. Let's see, why do we have an appendix?
That's not accurate.
Well, okay, here's talk to HawaiiPacificHealth.org, okay? They store certain healthy types of gut bacteria that could be altered or changed during an intestinal illness. Let's see, what is the function of the appendix? As of 1999, Oklahoma State University, professor of physiology. For years, the appendix was credited with very little physiological function. We know now, however, the appendix serves an important role in the fetus and in young adults. Endocrine cells appear in the appendix of the human fetus at around the 11th week of development. You can read all about. My point is, you're way behind on your research. The appendix is not a vestigial structure at all. But my other point remains.
I don't think I am. I'm not saying that vestigial structures are completely useless. I'm saying that they no longer have their original use, or they have a greatly attenuated use because of change in the body plan from evolution. You're not losing something, you're losing the need for something.
How could you possibly know such a thing? What do you know? You know what the original function of the appendix was? Were you there 10,000 years ago or 100,000 years ago? You're making this up. It's a story, Austin. You're a fairy tale presenter. We know now the appendix is part of your immune system.
I wouldn't want to be one of those.
Okay. If you take off one of your fingers, you can still grip things, but the other fingers have to work a little harder to do the job. If you take out your appendix, the other parts of your immune system have to work harder to pick up the slack, and they might not be able to, and you might die from it. So the appendix, there's plenty of stuff on the internet about
it. Not measurably.
Okay. Doesn't matter. It's part, like 10,000 screws holding a house together. Could you lose one? Yeah. And it wouldn't affect it. You're missing the point. You said the appendix is vestigial structure. You are wrong. It is not a vestigial structure. It might be something you can live without. You can live without.
It's a vestigial structure.
Well, you're lying or you're wrong. Okay. Do some research. Come back with that. You're going to say Hovind was right. The appendix is not vestigial. Okay. And what other points do you want to make? We can say that's incorrect. I can show lots of references. The people who understand it, the medical doctors, are saying, yep, you can't live without it. Part of
you said I asked, how is variation in kind not evolution? And you said it's not evolution, it's variation. How is variation not evolution?
Well, that's why you're defining the word evolution to mean any change. That's where you're wrong. That's why I said there's 6 different levels or stages.
Well, that is the definition of evolution. It's the change in heritable characteristics of a population over time.
Well, that's the definition you want to get it. That's what you're talking about there is microevolution.
That's the definition.
Okay. Then you're already starting with something alive.
Yeah, that's evolution.
Okay. With that definition, do they already have something alive? Do they already have a planet to live on? Do they already have space?
Oh, we're going back to the stages.
Well, you have to. See, you don't have an answer for the first ones. You're picking a little bit of definition from number 6. Sure, variations happen, but the variations, all of scientific observation would say they're limited. 46 guitar notes per second.
So variations happen. You admit that variations happen.
Oh, absolutely, yes. And I think it's an amazing
design.
So
how is that not evidence of evolution?
That's why you're not defining the word right. It is evidence that a really smart creator created animals with a gene code where some can survive in cold weather, some can survive in hot weather. There are long-haired dogs that can survive better in cold weather, and short-haired dogs, the dingo, that survive, greyhound, survive better in hot weather. They're still a dog.
You think God's like an author with a pencil, like writing these codes out? I'm confused by the metaphor.
I definitely agree you're confused. Okay. God definitely wrote the code. The code to do any computer in the world. You said you work with computers.
How did he write it?
Oh, I don't know. He's a genius. God wrote the code in such tiny little letters.
So he wrote the code, but you don't know how. How can evolution not be the answer? Evolution is the obvious answer for how he did it.
I don't know how a computer is assembled either in Japan or China or wherever they put it together. Does that prove it happens by itself?
Well, computers can't have sex and have babies.
That makes it more complicated, way more complicated. Okay, I think General Motors designs their assembly line to build. Let's say General Motors is going to build the
cars can't have sex or have babies either, Ken.
Well, just listen, follow me out here. They pick a design for a pickup truck.
Okay.
Coming down the assembly line, they put the frame down, they put the undercarriage on, they put maybe some of the front end parts and the rear axle and the drive shaft, then they put a cab on. And they can decide, do we want a 2-door or 4-door pickup truck? Do we want a long bed or a short bed? I bet the Chevy Silverado, I should Google it, they probably have 30 different varieties. Do you want power windows or not power windows? Do you want power seats or not power seats? But it's all in the design. It's already pre-planned in the design. God gave all the animals the ability to produce a variety of babies. One human couple could theoretically have 30 or 40 babies, and they would all be different, but they're all still human, all still interfertile, all recognizable as human. All the different dogs that we've seen in the world are still dogs. They can't get out of the dog kind. Now, you might get a Great Dane and a Chihuahua that can no longer interbreed for mechanical reasons, but they're still a dog. And I bet you could take the sperm and egg and put them together and make a dog. But you're not going to get a cow. You're not going to get a tree. You're going to get a dog every time. That's not evolution. That's the whole point. You're purposely muddying the water with it. That's why I said we better define what we mean. All you're defining is microevolution. And you want to hide behind that. We see variations within the kind. Yeah. God said they would bring forth after their kind. What is the best example you know of where any animal in the world has produced a baby that anybody would consider a new kind, not a new species, a new kind?
That's a straw man argument, Kent. I don't think evolution requires a dog to give birth to a cat. So if that happened, that wouldn't be proof of evolution. That would be proof of like some kind of weird chimera magic. If anything, that would support your ideas more than anything, right?
Okay.
I mean, evolution doesn't say that a dog will give birth to a cat, but it does say that dogs will give birth to different kinds of dogs. Right. That's microevolution. And if microevolution can occur, it can occur again and again and again and again until one population is many populations. And eventually, you'll get some major changes. So, for example, like whales are still technically mammals. They're still, they're in all the clades that their ancestors exist in, but they changed enough that it required something called cladogenesis, the idea of the creation of a new clade of organisms. They're still technically land mammals, except for the fact that they live in the sea now, but they have all the land mammal genetics, all the land mammal morphology. It is that exact thing that allows us to look at these organisms and say, a whale is not a fish. It is not more closely related to fish than it is to land mammals. You see what I mean?
Oh, I do see very clearly.
The fact that, for instance, whales continue to be whales have continued to be mammals. They've not only done that, they still have the exact same reproductive strategy as their land mammal ancestors. Why would that be the case when they live in water their entire lives? They have no need for amniotic sacs, placenta. They have no need for internal fertilization. If they wanted to, they could plop their eggs right out on the ocean floor, 100% humidity environment, and the males could come and fertilize them. But they have this land mammal reproductive anatomy. And I don't see how you can make sense of that without seeing that whales evolved from land mammals. That's just a piece of the puzzle, because there's also their vestigial bones and structures. There's all of the fossil species that show
there are several points
over time.
I think there's several good points there on the table to now hand it over to Kat to engage. Go ahead, Kat.
Okay, you are assuming that the whale came from something else because it has features like breathing air and placenta and internal fertilization that many land mammals do. Okay, that's an assumption. That's not science. Nobody's ever seen a whale produce a non-whale. These charts they show the kids here have got the whale in the upper left-hand corner.
Why would they need to?
What? I didn't hear what he said. Okay.
Why would they need to see something? Why would you need to see?
Because this is
something that's not a whale give birth to a whale. That doesn't make sense.
Somewhere along the line,
that's not science, Kent. I don't know.
I agree. Now listen, science is what we can observe, study, test, and demonstrate. Somewhere along the line, the whale came from something that was non-whale. It actually came from an amoeba. Do you believe this chart at the bottom, let's call it an amoeba, a single-celled creature, a single-celled creature over trillions of generations and lots of mutations and changes.
So
Did the
whale
amoeba
came from an amoeba.
The chart shows that it did. The whale, everything came from an amoeba. This is the chart. This is
I don't think that's what the chart shows. I think the chart shows that multicellular, non-microscopic organisms came from microscopic unicellular ones.
Okay, that's not science. Show me that happening.
It's a repeatable experiment. You can do it with fungi, algae. You can do it with yeast. Algae is especially interesting because not only with algae can you take it from unicellular to multicellular. Once it becomes multicellular, the cells within diversify to take on specific tasks, which is exactly what a multicellular organism is. So there's the leap from unicellular to multicellular. Algae will not only go from unicellular to multicellular, it'll go from unicellular to multicellular to non-microscopic, a non-microscopic biofilm. So there's molecules to organisms right there. And then all of the other evolutionary, development happens afterwards.
This is imagination. You need to study that further. The fact that a group of algae cells
you
can
get the algae and do it yourself, Kent. That is not imagination. That's a repeatable experiment.
I understand. That is nowhere near becoming what's called an organ or an organism with multiple organs. This chart shows the whale coming from an amoeba. It goes
from being a unicellular organism to being a multicellular, non-microscopic organism. That's a pretty huge change. It goes to being a colony.
It goes to being a colony of cells working together. That's all it goes to, and it's a limit. Why don't they get all the algae and make?
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
No, it's a limit. Why don't they get all the algae?
Oh man!
Make a whale from an algae from a pond scum. They've done experiments with bacteria.
Still doing the same straw man.
No, it's not. Bacteria have an 8-hour generational time. They're born, grow up, get married, have babies in 8 hours. So you get 3 generations a day. They've had bacteria experiments going for 100 years, trying to get it to make something other than a bacteria. And it doesn't happen. They always have baby bacteria. Most of them wouldn't survive in the wild.
They're not trying to make something other than a bacteria. They're changing bacteria.
This chart shows the whale coming from a bacteria. Do you believe you have a bacteria as your ancestor?
It shows multicellular organisms coming from monocellular.
That's right. It shows all the multicellular organisms in the world. This has the whale.
It's a visual representation of data, Kent. It's meant to take data and put it in a form where you can see it and you can draw conclusions from it. It's not the perfect detail, but it does help express the overall general consensus on the data.
It helps to spread the lie in the mind of the student to see the whale with a line connected to a sunflower on the far right. Do you believe whales and sunflowers are related?
Why do you think people are lying about it?
Oh, they don't want God to tell them what to do.
Can I ask that? Why are people lying about it?
I just answered it. Because the only other alternative is either somebody made this world or nobody made it. And if somebody made it, then he owns it and he makes the rules. And you don't like his rules. You will at Judgment Day. There's a God. He created the world.
I've thought about it a lot, actually, Kent. Since you bring that up, I think I'm actually kind of okay with it if I do end up seeing God when I pass away. I would be thrilled. I'd be like, wow, you're God? Awesome. Let's sit down and have some tea and just give me your wisdom, And if I kind of know wise people, and I feel like God is like the wisest of all, he would be talking at that tea table with me for eternity, and I'd be scribbling notes away. I'd be psyched.
Well, he already wrote a book.
That would be my heaven.
And he sent me as his representative to warn you, you're going to face
him.
Yeah,
I read that one. It's got a lot of unanswered questions.
Okay.
So I really liked the Jesus character.
Yep.
That guy was
I want to jump in real quick
because
I've been taking notes. I've been taking mental notes of what's been discussed and what's not.
Around the tree.
In terms of the topics. Kent, did you have a chance to address, Austin, correct me if I'm wrong, you brought up the vestigial pelvis argument in Wales. Kent, did you have an opportunity to address that?
I did
Yeah,
not.
well, I mentioned it broadly, just that they have vestigial features. They have vestigial parts like pelvises, leg bones. Manatees have fingernails. There's
Okay,
several,
why don't you guys engage
vestigials
that a
among
little
the
bit?
cetacean clade.
Okay. Well, you're mistaken. Whales do not have a vestigial pelvis. Okay. There's all kinds of different whales. I don't remember how many
They sure
now.
do.
Well, you're making a statement. That's not a scientific statement. It's a statement of your faith. I'll show you if you'd like to learn
It's a
some anatomy.
scientific fact.
Well, you believe that. You've been taught that. It's a shame. I
I've
taught you
studied
that.
it. They've never
Oh,
been
you
able
studied
to
it.
prove that those whales' pelvises have a function. They've
Well, let me show you
theorized
one
that
here.
they might have attenuated use in sexuality, but they've never been able to prove it.
Well, I think you need to talk to the whales about that. I'll show you one. We have one in our museum here.
I did.
Let's see. You did. Oh, you've researched it. It's got to be true.
I live
It's
right down the
Washington.
street from U of M. I can go talk to Phil Gingrich anytime I want.
You tell him and all the staff. I'll debate them all at the same time on this topic. The whale does not have a vestigial
I think
pelvis.
they'd love it.
I would love it too. Donnie, book him. Call him. Okay. The whale has a. The whale,
I don't have the power to make that happen, but I'll pull their nails and pull their teeth and try and get them to, Kent.
Okay, here's what we have. I'm sorry, I got so many slides. This is the bones you're talking about coming up here. The whale pelvis for AJ. Here we go.
I know what you're going to say. You're going to say they use it for sex, and that's not proven.
It's not
okay,
proven?
let's do this, gentlemen, because I do want to make sure we're going to limit the crosstalk. So, Kent, feel free to respond. Take as much time as you need on the vestigial
whale
pelvis argument. Then Austin will give you a chance to rebut.
Okay.
But we'll do it uninterrupted. So, Kent, you go first, and Austin, you get to respond.
All right, here's a full-size whale skeleton hanging at the Los Angeles Museum of Natural History. You have these little bones right here, right there. Those bones are not a pelvis. They're not the remnants of a pelvis. They are used for sex. That's what they're for. The whale is pretty big, okay? And they got a 15-foot penis. They got to maneuver in the water, in the dark, underwater, with no arms, and they can't talk and say, "Scoot over, honey." It has nothing to do with walking on land. It has to do with being able to make baby whales. They say this bones are only weakly developed.
The whole reason they have that structure is because they used it for walking on land, Kent. They've never been able to prove that they use it for sex.
I'm going
to jump in. I'm going to jump in. Listen, I'm going to moderate now. Austin, I said that Kent is going to respond uninterrupted. I've allowed you guys to have your crosstalk. I've allowed you to have your banter. Kent is going to respond uninterrupted. And then, Austin, you get a chance. Go ahead, Kent.
Okay. I thought he was done. My bad.
Okay. The whale has to have those bones that muscles attach to maneuver their giant penis to make baby whales, okay? It has nothing to do with walking on land. It never did. You can believe that it did if you want, but that's not scientifically observable. We don't observe any land animal losing their legs and turning into bones that are attached to the abdominal muscles for sexual reproduction. It's just, and you'll notice in the whale and in invertebrate animals, after the hip bones, the type of vertebra changes because they got different muscles that attach. You have the lumbar vertebra up here, then you have the caudal spine down here because it doesn't have to do the twisting that the upper spine does. So at the hips, it changes. So you have the vertebral body, the vertebrae are very different. Okay, they change right there at the hips. Let's see. So the structure of a canine tail, we can go through all the anatomy on that if you would like. There's a broken tail vertebra. These bones are necessary for the whales to make baby whales. That's what they're used for. And probably not as often as the male wants, and maybe more often than the female wants, but that's just the fact of life. Now, if you wish to imagine that it came from legs, you're now in fairy tale world. You're not in science. We know they have them. We know they use them. End of story. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Austin. Take as much time.
So 2 points. The fourth point, you said you'll never see a species losing its legs. That's just unequivocally wrong. Species legs shorten all the time, or maybe you've never heard of a dachshund. Absolutely, species can lose their legs. They'll shorten and attenuate completely. And then if this bone is used for mating, let's see some pictures. Let's see some x-rays of this bone being used for mating. And I ask that question because I know they don't exist. That's not what, nobody's been able to prove that's what that bone is for. It's virtually impossible to actually get footage of whales using that bone for intercourse. It's a theory, ironically. But what a funny subject. Whale penises. Say that 5 times. Whale penis, whale penis, whale penis.
All right, guys, let's keep it mature and PG-13. Kent, go ahead. Feel free to respond to Austin.
I've noticed one of my guys I debate quite often has quite a fascination with penises. And other things. Yes, the fact is, we know that they have the bones. We know they use them. The fact that you can't get a video of it, we can't get a video of the inside of the moon either. Okay, that doesn't. But see, you're missing the point completely. You're claiming that one of your evidences for evolution is these bones. That it's not evidence for evolution. Those bones are part of the whale's anatomy for reproduction. The whale never did walk on land. Never did. Can you imagine a 90-foot animal like that walking on land with big flippers? And it's not possible. It's designed to go in the water, and it seems to do pretty well there. The fact that it has some land animal features like breathing air, etc., the placenta, internal fertilization, that's a great design. I'm sure they enjoy it very much, but it has nothing to do with evolution. So all of the examples you gave tonight are you have to imagine that it used to do this. That's not science. Science is what we can observe, study, test, and demonstrate. Study the definition of the word science. It's knowledge gained from observations, experimentations. Where's the observation of a single-celled creature becoming a whale or a shark or a human or an amoeba? Where's the scientific observation for these points on this chart? There is none. It's a propaganda poster. It's all it is. Go ahead.
Algae,
Austin,
fungi,
go ahead.
yeast. All those organisms are capable from going from unicellular to multicellular. So I don't know what else to tell you. You should try doing that experiment yourself if you really want to disprove it.
They've done many experiments on this, and single-celled creature like protozoa, algae, etc., they produce a colony and work together for their common good. It's not a multicellular organism like you're talking about. Do some more research.
Austin, have you guys...
What do you call an organism that's composed of many cells? It's multicellular. That's literally the definition of the word.
Okay.
But Donnie, what were you saying?
Kent, you can respond, and then I was going to suggest...
The algae does not become an organism. It becomes a colony. A group of humans came over here and started this country also. Each one was an individual human. What's the difference? A group of people getting together to build a city, they don't grow together to become one giant human being. They stay individual people. The algae are individual cells. They work together.
That's not what the algae is doing.
Well, do some more research. Okay, you're wrong.
Austin, correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
You brought up in your opening statement, I think it was tiktaalik and transitional fossils in general. Have you guys had a chance to interact with that point?
No.
Yeah.
Austin, did you want to briefly explain why tiktaalik may or may not be a good line of evidence for evolution, and then we'll allow Kent to respond?
So I think tiktaalik is great evidence for evolution because it's a great evidence for evolution on multiple levels. One of the things that makes it great evidence for evolution is it shows predictive power. It shows that the theory has the ability to make predictions and they turn out correct. And tiktaalik was one of them. They said, let's look at these environments. Let's look at the suite of morphological body plans we have, and let's see what we need. And they realized they need some sort of tetrapodal ancestor that was, aquatic, semi-aquatic. And they searched around for the environments, and they postulated, hey, we might find it in this environment. And they found that exact organism. They found multiple features of its anatomy that support key aspects of how evolutionary theory postulates that life developed on Earth, like, the leap from mostly ocean tetrapods to having land tetrapods to having amphibians to having that very amniotic and, placental reproductive strategy that we have now that developed as a result of organisms testing the new behavior, the evolutionary behavior of exploring life on land and constructing a new niche for themselves. As they constructed that niche, they had to find some way to continue reproducing, especially as they became organisms that spent more and more of their lifetime on land. So we can see that, gradual evolution in the reproductive anatomy. We can see body plan evolution in Tiktaalik, and we predicted it all and found it without having any physical evidence of it, which is kaboom, mind blowing to me. That's almost like a prophecy.
Austin, I appreciate that breakdown of Tiktaalik. Kat, let's hand it to you now. Take as much time as you need to respond.
Okay, and again, he's telling a story. He's assuming that it used to live in one environment and moved to another environment. The fact that they find fossils in certain orders is only an example of hydrologic sorting. Of course, clams will be found in a similar layer to other clams because they have similar body density. Generally, birds are found on the top layers because birds have a similar body density. They float, and they're the last ones to drown in a flood. I asked a question he never answered. The geologic column, A, does not exist anywhere in the world, and B, if the layers are different ages, where are they coming from? How can this be younger than this? Where was all this dirt sitting for 2.4999 billion years? I'm telling you, your whole Tiktaalik argument is saying, well, we thought it might be in this layer, and we found it there. Okay, I can shake up, I can predict if I shake this thing up, I'll find the black layers at the bottom because the black sand is the heavier, denser sand. So it's probably going to make a black layer first. It's a matter of hydrologic sorting. Tiktaalik. Let's see, there's plenty of stuff on the topic showing that it is not a vestigial, it's not a transitional creature, it's a fish. They found 60 of them now. One of the most important fossils for the evolution, because they got to have it. New York Times, powerful rebuttal. Let's see, 25,000 species of fish identified. Okay. Where's my stuff on Tiktaalik? Here we go. Okay. What they found is another type of fish that has short limbs before the, short arms before the fins. It's obviously going to live in the water. That's all it is. That's all it can do. It's a fish. It's not a transitional at all. It's a fish that's able to walk out of water on land for a little while, but not forever. How do you know the Tiktaalik hasn't always been just like that, created just like that, and produces babies just like itself? You don't know. You don't see any animal changing to something else. This is why I say you have to have a vivid imagination. You have to pretend that you know something you cannot possibly know. And if you find a Tiktaalik fossil in the ground, if you find any fossil in the ground, all you know is it died. You can't prove it had any children, let alone different children. Why would this one be able to change to something else when no fish today is able to just get up and walk on land? No fish today can just decide to evolve into something else. They always produce babies just like their kind. They're locked in by their DNA. So evolution is a religion, and you're welcome to keep it. But don't teach it in our public schools.
Well,
Thank you, Kate. Yeah, over to you, Austin. Go ahead.
I appreciate the permission. I mean, I was going to do that anyway, but thanks. Yeah, I love it. I love it, man. We're learning some real science up in here. How does hydrological sorting work, Kent?
Well, obviously,
does it go by density, weight?
That's one of many factors. Sorting, fossil sorting. Yeah, animals would be sorted based upon their, let's see here, based upon their habitat. You would find the lower animals that live at the bottom of the ocean to be buried first in Noah's flood. As the mudslides are going back and forth, the clams are buried first. Fish could survive a little longer, until the water becomes muddy and they can't breathe it anymore. Maybe they're sorted based upon mobility. Clams can't run very fast. Maybe they're sorted based upon intelligence. As far as anybody can tell, clams aren't too smart. Or body density. Clam shells are heavier than bird feather. There'd be quite a few factors involved in sorting. What factors are involved in sorting when I make this flip this thing over and make multiple layers of sand? Well, the surface tension of the sand particle, the shape of the sand particle in here, the density, I'm not sure what all they put in here. There's white, blue, and black. And they seem to always settle into layers every time. So you can take a jar of mud and water and rocks and sand and shake it up and set it down. It'll make layers. Do it right in your house. Get a pickle jar and put sand, mud.
Yeah, that's because of density.
That one's density and surface tension friction with the water, depending on the fluid you've got it in. You put it in oil, you might get a slightly different pattern, but maybe someone has done these with oil. But it always makes layers. It's got nothing to do with evolution. And animals would tend to be sorted. I bet you generally find birds with other birds because birds hang out together more than birds hang out with clams, for example. So, yeah. But you're because there's a little bit of sorting to the fossils.
Okay. So my immediate, sorry.
You guys are jumping to the wild conclusion that this is
my
one's
immediate
changing to another.
My immediate question is, can we replicate hydrological sorting? If I put you in charge of a lab, could you make it happen in a lab?
Well, there was an experiment done at Colorado.
No. I mean, could you I'm just thinking, just spitballing here. Could you construct an artificial environment, put organisms in it, flood it with water and replicate this phenomena?
I probably could. Yeah, I think that animals would tend to automatically be sorted based upon their body density. Certainly,
you should do that.
Well, all right, we might do that here.
Let's get started on that. I would love to help you with that.
We got 140 acres here. We got plenty of
property.
Let's
get some funding and get that going.
You fund it. I'll build the lab. Okay. Yes, I think you would find dead animals.
All right. Well, we got a plan here. I'm on Ken's team now. Cool. Right. High five, Ken.
All right. Okay, Donnie, were there more questions left hanging? We left a lot of stuff.
Let's do some science.
Those are the ones that I had, at least in terms of scientific evidence for evolution. Before we get into some quick closings, is there anything that you noted, Kent, that you wanted an opportunity to engage in terms of evidence for evolution?
Well, I got a couple of pages of notes here. If we have another debate, I'll get time to put stuff together. But no, I might like to get to audience questions before I have to.
Okay. All right, let's do it. Austin, Kent, we can consider this the first of many, and so we'll have more opportunities to engage. Gentlemen, I appreciate the nature of tonight's debate. It was comprehensive in the sense that we had long openings, some rebuttals, and then also some back and forth discussion there, which flew by. And we did have the opportunity to engage the most relevant, important points for tonight's debate. Okay, gentlemen, let's do some quick, let's say 2 or 3 minute closing statements just to wrap up our thoughts, wrap up our points, land the plane in terms of solidifying our positions for tonight. Austin, you kicked us off with your opening statement, so let's give you the first concluding statement. Let's say somewhere between 2 and 3 minutes each. Austin, go ahead.
Okie dokie. I kind of anticipated how things would go before I wrote my concluding statements, so forgive me if this turns out to not be accurate. My closing statement would be that Kent can't prove where limits are in all of God's creative processes, be they whatever he calls them, natural or supernatural. He doesn't have the right to say that evolution is not one of God's infinite, limitless possibilities in good faith, unless he's a true prophet, which I personally don't think he is. But his entire career and relevancy is based on saying that. So I doubt that bias will allow change to that view, no matter what I say. I've asked him to pull something out of the data. Show me where the limits are that stop evolution. I asked him near the end here, can we replicate hydrological sorting? Can we do these things scientifically? And I don't think it will ever be done, unfortunately. I don't think we'll actually get into a lab work and do some work, which is kind of disappoints me. I would love to do that. Evolution means not only that the environment impacts the organisms, but that the organisms impact the environment. And I think that is a big part of why creationists will fight it tooth and nail until their last breath. And I think also part of it is that if evolution is true, that also means that they're wrong about how they are interpreting wrathful parts of the Bible that they love, like how they treat women and how they treat gay people and trans people. And so if they accept evolution, they accept that Genesis is a parable, they're kind of left not looking so good about the way they treat other people. And that would probably be it.
Okay, Austin, that's 2 minutes.
I know I probably have more minutes than that.
No, I mean, we said between 2 and 3, so that's okay. Which means we got another 2 to 3 minute closing statement, gives the audience 2 or 3 minutes to get in your last questions. Go ahead, Kent. Floor is yours.
Well, I believe the Bible is literally true and scientifically accurate. The Bible says very clearly that God created everything in 6 days. That's the only way it works. There are millions, if not billions, of symbiotic relationships where certain animals require a certain plant to live, and a certain plant requires a certain animal to pollinate itself. There are thousands, if not millions, of examples of symbiotic relationships I think are inexplicable with the evolution of religion. I think it's easier to believe God designed it that way. Just like a nut is designed to fit on a certain bolt, depending on the threads per inch and diameter and stuff like that. Okay? God said they will bring forth after their kind. He said that 20 times in the first 7 chapters. I believe that's all that's ever been observed. If you wish to believe otherwise, you can believe anything you want, but stop calling it science and stop making these stupid charts connecting everything and stop making all the kids learn this. They want to save the planet? Quit cutting down trees to make the paper to print these stupid charts. That would save the planet right there. The evolution is nothing but a religion that people have chosen to believe in because the only other alternative is somebody made this world. I've said for years, there's 2 options. Somebody made the world or the world made itself. If you know of another option, I'd like to hear it. We don't know of any way it could make itself. Somebody had to make this place. And thankfully, that somebody loves us in spite of our peculiarities. And he came down himself and became a man and died on the cross to pay for your sins and my sins. And if you choose to reject that, that's your option. But the payment's available. You got 2 choices, Austin, when you stand before God. You got to make them while you're on earth, though. Do you want a fair trial before God, or do you want forgiveness? If you want a fair trial, I can tell you how it's going to turn out. It ain't going to be pretty because we've broken his laws. We're guilty. We're sinners. We've broken his laws. I'm guilty. That's why I want his forgiveness. And I asked him for it 56 years ago now, coming up. And I'm his child, became his child. He can be the same thing. So, and I'd leave with, I guess, Pascal's wager. If I'm right and you're wrong, you're in trouble. If you're right and evolution's true and I'm wrong, I didn't lose anything. Had a wonderful life. All right. See you Judgment Day.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kent and Austin, for those closing statements. Let's get into some of our questions here now. Okay. Looks like we got a pretty good mix for the both of you. Let's start here. Van's 182 workshop. $10 super chat. Appreciate the support. And it's a question for you, Austin. Where did the first whale come from? Was it something that was not a whale? Also, please explain Kent's PowerPoint about the fish having its nose stuck in the rock. Austin, feel free to respond. Kent, you get to respond after him, and then Austin, you get the final word. Go ahead.
That's a fantastic question. I really like that question. It's complicated to answer because it's not, I think sometimes when creationists think about evolution, they kind of mischaracterize it a little bit. They get the idea that, a hippo just plopped out, a horse someday or something like that. I don't see it as happening that way. I picture it kind of like this. Like if you had a cup and you were putting flour into it, a little sprinkle at a time, is it possible to tell which sprinkle is the first piece of flour that goes over the lip of the cup? No, I don't think it is. And evolution is like that. It's a gradient. It's not you reached level 16, Charmander is evolving into Charmeleon kind of thing. It's like species give birth to an organism, and that organism looks almost identical to its parents, but it has microscopic differences. And over time, those microscopic differences add up. So to say, which one exactly, I don't really think you can. As far as the fish having its nose, I don't know about that. Ken taught me a lot tonight. I'm going to have to go look that one up.
Okay.
Donnie, you there? Yeah, Ken, go ahead.
Okay. Well, if something evolved toward becoming a whale, who did it marry? At each one of these steps, as it slowly changes into something else, it has to have a mate of the opposite sex in the same place in the world. It's a big world at the same time in history. So you really got to get a miracle millions of times, billions of times to turn your amoeba into a whale, because you have not just one evolve, you got to have 2 of the opposite sex in the same place at the same time, and they got to find each other, and they got to be interested. You got a whole bunch of obstacles to overcome, and you're welcome to believe that, but it's not science. This fish here was found petrified in the standing position, running through several layers of rock that were dated at millions of years different in age. The nose was stuck securely in the rock, 1,000,000 years older than the neck of the fish. How did it balance there for 1,000,000 years? You can look up the articles here. Answersingenesis.org has a good article about it. The ichthyosaur, stuck standing on its head. The creationist explanation is very simple. During Noah's flood, animals would die in all sorts of postures. And all the layers are deposited. Probably each layer that we're seeing is a different tide, not a different 1,000,000-year period. And if those layers are indeed different ages by millions of years, I've been asking the question for a long time, where are they coming from? Where's the new layer coming from? Why is there no erosion? Are there no erosion marks between the layers? Why is there no soil built up between the layers? Did nothing live, let's see, between the Jurassic and Cretaceous? Where's the soil? Don't you have to have living organisms? Don't you have to have a biosphere? It's all layers of sedimentary rock stacked on top of each other like pancakes. During Noah's flood, the moon would pull the tide up on the earth and hold it like a bump, like it does now. The earth would be spinning like it is now, and the tide would go up and down 200 feet. If it weren't for all the interruptions today hitting the continents, today we could get a harmonic tide if we submerge all the continents. The 200-foot tidal change every 6 hours, 12.5 minutes means it is sucking in and pumping out enormous trillions of tons of water. It's the sideways movement of the water that makes all the layers. Google experiments in stratification. Watch the video where they did it 30 years ago, University of Colorado at the laboratory. They had a flume pouring sediments into moving water, and it formed 10 or 15 layers at the same time. The layers form horizontally, not vertically. The law of superposition is stupid. It's not a law. It's dumb. If the top layer is younger, where is it coming from? There is no law of superposition. He called it that. All the layers form horizontally, not vertically. Watch experiments in stratification, and you'll see. Let's see, fossil sorting. I got too many slides to find that one now. Anyway, next question, Donnie. Unless he got a comment.
Yeah, Austin, you get the last word. Go ahead.
Let's do it. Let's do the test. Let's make this hydrological sorting happen. I want to. Let's collaborate.
Come on down to Dinosaur Adventureland.
See, I knew you guys.
I'm invited. Psyched. I might take you up on that.
All right,
Austin,
you know what? I think I have to, because me and Donnie said we were going to do some sparring.
That's true. That's true. But what we could do is meet up at Dinosaur Adventureland sometime in 2025. We can do some sparring and an in-person debate. You and Kent, I'll moderate. I'll sit right there in between you guys. What do you say?
That would be fun.
All right. Let's get to our next. I knew you guys would be best buds by the end of this. So here's an interesting question, fair question from Mark Reed. It's for you, Kent. And so it has to do with the section on the ordering of the fossils. So he's wondering, why are pterodons, that's a pterosaur, lower than birds? So if all birds would be expected to be in the same layer, pterosaurs, which are also flying creatures, how come they're not in the same layer as birds? Go ahead.
Well, there's an obvious built-in assumption to the question. I don't know that they are. If you found a pterodactyl fossil in a layer that was above bird layer, they've got ways to explain it rather than accept it. They would say, oh, there's been an overthrust here, or there's been erosion and redeposition. They've got the playbook already written out to explain. So first of all, I don't know that it's true that they are always found in a lower layer. Okay, that's an assumption. And I don't think they've explored the whole world. So if they find one tomorrow that is a pterodactyl above a bird, would you accept that, or would you have an explanation to explain it away? I know they'd explain it away, Donnie. They've got a whole list of things that they can explain away. So if they find in the order that they want them to be, fish, amphibian, reptile, mammal, farm, then they'll accept it. But if it happen to be out of order, like dinosaur and human footprints found together and dinosaur and human bones found together, they won't accept that, because they have to. It doesn't fit their religion. They can't accept something outside their religion. This is a sign of most religions are unable to accept any idea outside of what they've been taught. The Mormons do that. The Muslims do that. They say, this is what we've been taught. We know it's true. Everybody else is wrong. It's a religious belief. Evolution is nothing but a pagan religion.
Thank you, Kent. Austin, any thoughts? Anything you'd like to add to that?
I would say the pteranodons came first. Simple as.
Okay. Appreciate the response. Kent, did you want a quick final word on that?
Yeah, I don't know the body density per grams per cubic centimeter of a pterodon compared to. I know birds have hollow feathers, hollow bones, and there'd be several factors involved here. One, the order that they're going to die. Obviously, birds can survive a flood longer than the clams because they fly around till they run out of gas. Pteranodons would probably have a similar advantage over a flood. As far as body density of a reptile compared to a bird, I don't know. We'll Google that. What's the average body density of a bird compared to the average body density of a reptile? I think we find reptiles are more dense per cubic centimeter or per cubic inch if you're metric or English system. So it still could be sorted and still have nothing to do with evolution, would be my point.
Thank you, Kent. Okay, next one for you, Austin. Why Budry? $10 super chat. Appreciate the question. The question is this. He says he's a genealogist, so he's wondering, ask your evolutionist how many autosomal DNA centimorgans he shares with a chimpanzee or a bacteria. Austin, are you familiar with that topic and what that is, and what are your thoughts?
Oh, did you finish the question?
Yeah, you're all good to go, Austin.
Did you freeze? I can't hear you. Okay. What was the question again?
So I got it up on screen. You were kind of lagging there a bit, so I might have frozen just on your end. Kent, am I coming in okay for you?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So here's the question. He says he's a genealogist. He's wondering how many autosomal DNA centimorgans you share with a chimpanzee or a bacteria.
I'm confused. Does he mean he's a genealogist? Like somebody who studies families, like family lineages? Or did he mean he's a geneticist? He's asking a genetics question.
He's a genealogist, but I think he looks to this specific genetic marker, a centimorgan, to identify family relationships, I guess. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm a little confused. I would say, I don't know an exact number, but like 98%, since we share 98% of our genome with chimpanzees. So yeah, 98%, whatever number that is.
Okay, appreciate it, Austin. Kent, anything you wanted to add to that?
I would just add that if there are similarities in the human DNA and the chimpanzee DNA, that is simply evidence it's the same guy is writing the code, because that DNA is so complex, mind-boggling. I've often said Microsoft PowerPoint has probably maybe even millions of identical lines of code to Microsoft Word. I bet they go to the same spell check, which has how many lines of code are there in spell check? Certainly probably millions. So I think the similar code is indicate the same guy wrote the code. I think the fact that, Chevy lug nuts will fit on a Pontiac is proof the same people are making that car, and their lug nuts are the same. Same people are making different cars. So God designed similarities in all the different animals for multiple reasons. The similar lines of code to tell you to flex your fingers are probably the same as the lines of code that a monkey has to flex their fingers. Plus, if there weren't similarities between all the different organisms on Earth, we could only eat each other. Now the brown cow can eat the green grass and digest it, absorb it, make something out of it, make the white milk. I can drink the white milk and make the blonde hair. It's a beautiful, seamless nature that God created, and he ought to get the glory for that. This doesn't prove any common relationship because there are similar structures or similar DNA or similar lines of code. It's proof of a common designer. The same guy designed it. That'd be my answer.
Thank you, Kent. Austin, did you want a final word?
Yeah. So I think it's interesting that you know, the same guy writing the code. And that's why I asked the question, how did he write it? Because for me, I might be able to accept Kent's argument if randomness is a part of how he wrote it, because that's the only way I see things like ERVs, ALUs, you know, things like that making sense. There has to be some degree of randomness, which seems to kind of, you know, contradict the idea of design. They seem to be different from each other. I can't see any way that you can infer that randomness is design without begging the question.
Thank you, Austin. Okay, next question here comes in for you, Kent. Didymus. Here's a question. Kent, how does a common designer explain why dogs are more similar to bears than to butterflies? So I think to interpret that, he's looking to the argument from nested hierarchical patterns. Why are humans and chimpanzees more similar than a human is to a butterfly or a bacteria?
Well, all of the separating of animals and plants into different kingdoms, families, class, family, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species, all of that is a man's attempt to organize nature to fit into his brain. We've decided that bears and dogs are more similar than butterflies. The butterflies have no problem finding a mate, another butterfly. The dogs have no concern not even think about mating with a bear or vice versa. They know what their kind is. They just know. And they seem to be doing pretty good without us helping them at all. It's us trying to classify them. The bears don't even know that we've classified them into 8 different kinds of bears: panda bear, polar bear, sun bear, etc. They don't even know we did it, nor do they care. They know what to look for in a mate. The whole classification system is man trying to put his classification onto all these animals so we can keep them organized. And then if suddenly the bears are able to produce what we call a new species, they get all excited. Evolution. No, it's still a bear. Always been a bear. Always will be a bear. So they don't care that we're classifying them. So the common designer designed the original kind to bring forth after their kind, and that's all that's ever been seen. If you wish to believe otherwise, believe whatever you want. But it isn't science. We see they bring forth after their kind, and that's what God said would happen. And that's how you tell. That's how they tell species generally. The definition of species is, can they bring forth, have babies? Dogs and bears cannot. Dogs and butterflies cannot. And we've decided to put them into different, kingdoms sometimes. They don't care. It's man classification system. Okay.
Thank you, Kat. Austin, anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I think this is a great question. And I would say that, common design can't really explain why some things look more related to other things than they do to others, like why a dog looks more similar to bears than to butterflies. But evolution explains it just fine. And I do want to say, Didymus, I like your screen name. He's one of the big bad Bible boys I mentioned earlier, Saint Didymus the Blind. Very cool story that guy has. He was very devout.
Appreciate it, Austin. Kent, anything you'd like to add in terms of final words?
Nope, that's it.
All right, let's wrap it up here with one more question, as we are just 2 minutes from the 2-hour mark. So, okay, here we go. Question for you, Kent. Sparta. Question for Kent. If hydrological sorting was true, why don't we ever find whale bones at the bottom of the fossil layers?
Well, again, there's an obvious built-in assumption with the question. I don't know that we don't. Who's deciding all this? Has the whole world been explored? Have all the fossils been found? Obviously, no. Could it be that there could be some later? But we don't know that. So your question has a built-in assumption, and it certainly has an assumption that we've already explored everything and we know everything. We don't know nothing. Minor, small percentage has been explored. So if the whales, though, that breathe air, could come up and get air, even in a flood, if it was chaotic water and the water's muddy where fish can drown, if their gills get plugged with sediments, whales couldn't. They could get up and breathe. They could live longer. Maybe whales are smarter than fish, and they could survive a flood. They could survive the disaster longer. I don't know. I'll watch the video when I get to heaven and try to get the message to you wherever you are at the time.
Thank you, Kent. Austin, over to you.
I hope I get to watch that video with you, Kent. That would be so illuminating. Gosh, you would learn so much.
Yeah.
No, I would. For me, the answer is pretty obvious. It's because they hadn't adapted into existence yet, so there were no whale bones to deposit at the time that those fossil layers were being laid down. Simple as. Thanks.
Thank you,
Sparta. Sparta's great. He's a very cool guy.
Awesome. All right, Austin. Thank you, Kat. Final word.
No, that's it. The assumption that the layers are different ages is flawed on its face. Where is the material coming from? If the top layer is younger than the bottom layer, where was it sitting for billions of years waiting to land? Moving it from here to here does not change the age of it. Shuffling a deck of cards does not make the top card younger. There is no geologic column. It doesn't exist. There's no such thing as a Jurassic age. There's no such thing. It's a fairy tale. I'm sorry you guys fell for it. Hate to burst your little bubble, but there's no Santa Claus, there's no Easter Bunny, and there's no geologic column. Doesn't exist.
All right, gentlemen, that wraps up our Q&A. Time has flown by together. Great debate, comprehensive. I enjoyed the banter, the occasional moments of banter during the discussion. And to the audience, as always, I appreciate the participation, the feedback, and the questions and challenges that you guys send in. So let's get some final words, final thoughts. Austin, your first time here. I hope you enjoyed it here on Standing for Truth for being your first time. Hopefully we'll have you back in the future. And so tell us, or provide us, I should say, some final words, final thoughts. Thanks for doing this.
So my final thought would be that I think there is evidence of evolution, and it's just a matter of how you interpret it. Kent interprets it very, very differently from me, and I try my best to understand his interpretation and not straw man it, and try to respond to the best version of it. And I still think it comes up kind of short in terms of usefulness, in terms of accuracy. So personally, I still am like, this seems wrong. But I respect that people have very strong, passionate feelings about their beliefs. And I love to see people living their passion. And Kent is a very passionate man, and I appreciate his passion.
Thank you, Austin, for those final words, final thoughts. Kent, thank you as well for your time. Appreciate you doing this. Let's hand it to you for some final words, final thoughts.
Sure. If you want to watch more of my videos, go to drdino.com, top left-hand corner there. DRDINO, that's our website, where we list all the different 8 or 9 channels that we're on. We're on TikTok and Facebook, and I don't know what all we're on. A bunch of them, okay? Yeah. How many, Nick, are we on? How many different things?
Probably about 6.
6 now? Okay. Anyway, watch our stuff. If they take down a channel, which they seem to do once in a while when they don't like us, what we said, go to a different channel. We're up there somewhere. And thank you, Austin. And yes, you're welcome to come visit Dinosaur Adventureland. If you're freezing up there in the north, come on down here. It's nice and warm down in lower Alabama. Okay?
Always.
All right.
All right. There we go. The official invite. Kent,
Right.
Austin, appreciate you guys doing this and giving us an engaging, memorable debate on the scientific evidence for evolution. Austin, we'll let you out for the night. Kent, you get yourself a good sleep, and we'll talk to you gentlemen soon. Okay, there we go. There's another debate in the books. This time, another debate in the creation versus evolution debate books. For those that want to get involved in the debate community and engage in some evolution or creation related debates, we are always looking for interlocutors, both seasoned interlocutors and maybe people who just want to get their feet wet in the debate octagon here. Reach out to me. I am booking for 2025. We want to give you guys another epic year of debate showdowns. I've already got several epic debates ready and booked and confirmed for January. So we're going to kick off the year with a bang as we wrap up this year with a bang. And so we'll be back on Wednesday for another debate here, this time between Dr. Dino and Atheist Jr. certainly won't be their first time debating. They always make for a fun debate. And so I'm excited here for, I think it's around 6 or 7. I'm not sure, but if you do check the description box of this event, you'll find I've listed, or I should say linked, all of their previous debates. So you can watch those. You can have a Kent versus Atheist Jr. debate marathon to get yourself ready, excited, and prepped for the great carbon dating debate. So this will be their first time engaging this specific topic. And that's kind of what we've been doing lately with Kent and Atheist Jr. We've been focusing in on a very specific topic. So the last couple that we've done together, the last one was whale evolution, the great whale evolution debate. Tons of fun, Kent and Atheist Jr. The one before that was on embryology, if I remember correctly. So that was another fantastic debate. Do check those out. This one is confirmed and good to go. I'm very excited for this one. January 10th. So Friday, January 10th at 7 EST, we are going to have an epic showdown here on Common Descent versus Common Design. Two very knowledgeable debaters, both seasoned on this topic, the topic of origins and ancestry, doctors Jerry Bergman and Dan Stern Cardinal. Again, I am excited for this, so make sure to hit the notification bell on that one. We're looking for a good, technical, comprehensive, and professional debate on this topic. We got this one coming up this month. The Great Age of the Earth debate showdown between T-Rock and Planet Peterson. I think this one is going to be a lot of fun. Both T-Rock and Planet Peterson are excellent debaters. They know their stuff. They know their science. And so this will be one to remember. And I'm looking forward to it. This week, we've got several more debates. We got the Atheist Jr. and Ken Hovind one. We've also got this Saturday, the Great Salvation debate. Lots of people looking forward to this rematch, much anticipated rematch. Charles Jennings and Sean Griffin. Should be a lot of fun. Seasoned, experienced debaters here. Coming up now in just a couple weeks. Time flies by, that's for sure. Time flies by when you're having fun with all these debates. We've got Doctors Fuzz Rana, Robert Endogenous, two experienced debaters, again, very knowledgeable on the topic of the age of the earth. Both well-rounded, actually, when it comes to subject matters that are debated. So this will be what is the age of the earth. We got Dr. Fuzz Rana from Reasons to Believe, Dr. Robert Endogenous. This will be old earth creation versus young earth creation. If you did not yet see this one last week, we had the 6 stages of evolution debate between Grayson and Kent. Excellent audience, that debate, very lively exchange between the two. So do check that one out if you have not yet seen it. End of the year, we are going to be ending 2024 with an all things creation event. Me, Matt Naylor and Matt Powell. And so this is going to be live and interactive. We'll be taking questions, responding to videos, going over funny memes, maybe bringing on guests. We're still discussing all the details, but we do want to make it fun and interactive. This week, we've got Praise I Am and Grayson Hawk. I'm excited for this one. It is about time we get Praise I Am and Grayson Hawk in the debate octagon to duke it out and discuss this important topic, God versus non-God. So God versus non-God worldview. And again, that is coming up quickly. That'll be this Friday. So that'll be our Friday night event. Thursday, I'll be here again with Pastor Jason Robinson. We were here 2 weeks ago for a comprehensive examination of James 2 plus open mic. And we're going to be doing the same thing here on Thursday. Pastor Robinson and I have talked a little bit about the material of this show. And so you're certainly not going to want to miss it if you're into the topic of eschatology, which is the study of last days or end times. We're going to be getting into the timing of the rapture, the millennium. Is it amillennialism, post-millennialism, or premillennialism? We are going to discuss all things end times, and then we're going to open it up for discussion, debate, and Q&A like we did with our previous event on James 2. So it'll also be an open mic. 2 in 1 in many ways. This one I'm excited for in January as well. We've got Ben Kissling, Curious Christianity. Adam, is the Bible agnostic about the age of the earth? This one should be a thought-provoking debate, that is for sure. Ben Kissling will be here with Sam and myself in mid-December. We're going to be interacting with Inspiring Philosophy's videos, 10 Problems for a Biblical Young Earth. That should be a very informative one, as we did one a month or two ago on William Lane Craig and his historical Adam. So, okay, guys, I think we're going to wind it down there and wrap it up. If you're not yet subscribed to this channel, but you love debates, you love interviews, discussions, open mics, make sure you are subscribed. Hit that notification bell for our upcoming live streams, the ones that you're interested in. I do my best to give everybody a variety, a diversity of programs. That's why we do debates on all sorts of topics. We don't want to be a one or two trick pony. We want to give you edifying material on all things. And so if you're into soteriology, we got debates for you. If you're into eschatology, creation, evolution, the nature of God, we do a lot of stuff here on the nature of God. That would include debates on the deity of Christ, the Trinity, oneness. So there's several there for you to enjoy. So a little bit for everybody. Last minute super chats here. No questions attached, but just showing some love, and therefore I appreciate it. Caleb Kismet, $10 super sticker. You guys are the life and blood of this channel. And so I do appreciate the support. You guys are exactly why we're able to put out so much content on all sorts of topics. Now, for those that are not yet subscribed to our secondary channel, allow me to screen share really quickly, just seeing if there's any questions in the chat. Here's our secondary channel. So check this out, Young Earth Creation. You can also get it from our website, standingfortruthministries.com. And if you go to the community page, Christmas is just around the corner. I get a lot of questions and comments, people wondering where they can get themselves one of these nice, comfy SFT shirts, or one of our Standing For Truth Ministries mug, or our books. We've published as a ministry now 16 or 17 books, mostly on creation evolution related topics, but you can also find my book on end times theology. That's End Times Revealed, Dawn of the Antichrist. We just released recently several new shirts. I'm working on more designs for 2025, some cool. One of our frequent debaters here, Charles Jennings from the Layman's Seminary, he has a famous question that he likes to ask anybody who disagrees with him on just about anything, which is, would you like to formally debate that? And that is so true, because we do the same, especially in comment sections or on Facebook with the keyboard ninja. There's a lot of keyboard ninjas and keyboard warriors on Facebook in your Facebook groups, right? And you know they're a troll when you look at their handle pic or their profile pic, and it's a picture of like a celebrity or just some fictional character. These guys are just straight up trolls. Anyways, would you like to formally debate that? So we're going to get that onto a shirt. I think that's a cool design. I'm also working on getting a shirt and a design, SFT gear on the Debate Dojo. I think that'd be fun. So here, check out the new quality over quantity shirt. We've got older shirts too, like the Devolution shirt. Here's Matt and I trying to look cool with some of our shirts. So there's the quality over quantity. Here's another shirt that we sell. Matt showing it off. The Devolution shirt, Rescue Device shirt, and then the SFT ministry shirt, which you can get in a variety of different colors. Here's the main channel. Here's the upcoming live stream section. I try to keep this as up to date as possible. So do check that out to see what we've got for everybody, as we do try to put on about 4 or 5 live events a week, plus videos. So lots of videos. Last week we put out 6 or 7 videos. And then I've also added to the playlist section. So check the playlist for a lot of these videos organized in specific topics. So yes, Charles is famous for that. Tears of the Kingdom. He I think he had a rough weekend. He's a little triggered in the chat, a little bit tired. I think he needs to take a nap. So mommy, Tears of the Kingdom's mommy, if you're out there, you might want to put him down for a little nap, because he's been triggered throughout the comment section. And so Tears of the Kingdom, that's okay. You know, you can talk a big game here. We feel for you. It might just be nap time. So if you want to schedule a debate, let's go. We don't want we're not impressed with the keyboard ninjas or the keyboard Karens. So if there's something you want to debate, you just let me know and we'll get you into the debate dojo. If you've got something you want to hash out. Doki Doki Bible Club, appreciate that. jbnaturalskincare.com. Check that out as well. Lots of good deals, testimonials, and lots of products to benefit from there. Doki Doki SFT Fan Club, appreciate that, brother. There's the store. Creationist Clothing, which you can get to from the Standing For Truth Ministries website. And so Tears of the Kingdom, looks like I scrolled up, looks like he's triggered because he didn't get his question asked. Well, here's the thing. We, especially during the bigger debates where we get a couple hundred people, 300 people, sometimes we'll do debates, you get 500 people. We only have a limited amount of time to ask questions. That's why we bump super chats to the top. And that is also why we can't ask every single question. Okay. Well, Tears of the Kingdom, there's a lot of people that don't get their questions answered. Okay. It's no reason to cry a river. We got to be mature. We want to be professional, realistic. Okay. We get a ton of questions that come in. And if we were to get to every single question, especially in the creation evolution debates, we would literally be here till same time tomorrow. So if you really want to get a question answered, if you really want to get a question in there, send it in the form of a super chat. Okay. And then we bump those to the top. Once we're done with super chats, then we go through all the other questions that are non-super chat, and we go through those until we've reached the end of our agreed upon time for the Q&A. Now, I leave it up to the debaters when it comes to the amount of time we answer questions in the Q&A period. As a moderator and host of this channel, I've done Q&A periods that went an hour and a half. I mean, in our Trinity debates, we sometimes go an hour and a half. The end times theology debates, we go an hour and a half with Q&A, because if the debater's up for it, I'm up for it. But I need to respect the time. I need to respect the time that the debaters have offered and given for these debates. Kent is very generous with his time. He's extremely busy. He gives us 2 hours per debate. So once we hit that 2 hour mark, we got to wind things down. And typically I'll choose the questions in light of the fact that we get so many questions in. A lot of them end up being on topic. So I try to pick out the ones that are as on topic as possible. So keep joining us, keep sending in those questions, and I'm sure eventually we'll get to your question. And again, we leave it up to the debaters, because I want to respect their times. So, okay, guys, I think just looking at the chat, make sure we got to all of the questions and comments. Again, appreciate everybody tuning in. Appreciate the feedback, and also the questions that have come in. So, okay, I think we're going to wrap it up there. And again, I enjoyed this. I always enjoy these creation versus evolution debates, and we're really working towards giving you guys many more on the creation versus evolution topic for 2025. We're ending this year with a bang. It's been an epic year of events, It's been a very memorable year of debates, and we want to do more of the same in 2025. God bless all. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you on Wednesday for the great carbon dating debate. Standing for Truth is out. God bless.